I used to think marriage was about trust. Turns out, it's about leverage. My name is Ashley Morgan, and I'm a commercial real estate agent in Phoenix. Not the glamorous kind who sells penthouses to celebrities. I specialize in office spaces and warehouse conversions. It's steady work, respectable income, and it taught me something valuable. Always read every clause before you sign. I should have applied that lesson to my marriage certificate. The night everything changed started ordinary enough. I was sitting in our dining room, laptop open, reviewing lease agreements for a client meeting the next morning. The house was quiet, too quiet, actually. My husband, Tyler Morgan, had texted 3 hours earlier saying he was working late at his architectural firm. Again. For the 5th time that week. I glanced at the clock, 11:30. The chicken parmesan I'd made sat cold on the counter, still in the pan. I'd stopped plating his portion weeks ago. Seemed wasteful. My phone buzzed. Not Tyler, my best friend Melissa. Or rather, former best friend, though I didn't know that yet. "Can you talk?" the text read. "Sure, what's up?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. "I need to tell you something. In person. Tomorrow?" My stomach tightened the way it does when you know something's wrong but can't identify it yet, like hearing a strange sound in your house at night. "Just tell me now," I typed. Another long pause. Then, "Tyler's having an affair." I stared at those 4 words until they blurred. Reread them. The letters didn't change. My hands were steady as I typed back. "With who?" "Catherine, his sister-in-law." Catherine Brennan, Tyler's brother's wife. The woman who'd been at our Thanksgiving dinner 2 weeks ago, laughing at Tyler's jokes, touching his arm when she talked to him. I'd noticed but dismissed it as her usual attention-seeking behavior. Catherine was the type who needed every man in the room to find her charming. "How do you know?" I sent. "Jake told me. He's devastated." Jake Brennan, Tyler's younger brother. Software engineer, quiet type, completely devoted to Catherine. They'd been married 6 years, no children yet. Catherine always said she wasn't ready. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I set my phone down carefully, as if it might shatter. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside and left just the frame. But underneath that hollowness, something else stirred, something cold and calculating. I walked to Tyler's home office, the spare bedroom he'd converted into his workspace. The door was unlocked. I turned on the light and surveyed the room methodically. Drafting table, reference books, filing cabinets. His desktop computer sat dark and silent. I tried the filing cabinet, locked. The desk drawers opened easily, revealing the usual detritus of professional life: pens, sticky notes, business cards. The bottom drawer stuck slightly. I tugged harder, and it gave way. Inside was a folder I'd never seen before. Red, unmarked. I opened it. Bank statements for an account I didn't recognize. The amounts were substantial. Deposits ranging from $5,000 to $15,000, made monthly for the past 18 months. The account holder was listed as TM Consulting, LLC. I photographed every page with my phone, hands still perfectly steady. Beneath the statements were receipts, hotel rooms, restaurants I'd never been to, jewelry I'd never received. A weekend trip to Sedona in August, when Tyler had told me he was at a conference in Denver. I photographed those too. At the bottom of the folder was a lease agreement. Tyler had rented an apartment in Scottsdale, a 1-bedroom unit in a luxury complex. Monthly rent, $4,000. Lease start date, 14 months ago. The signature at the bottom was his, bold and confident. The witness signature belonged to Catherine Brennan. I stood there in his office, under the harsh overhead light, and felt something shift in my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd apparently passed through that without noticing. This was something sharper, cleaner. I returned everything to the drawer exactly as I'd found it, turned off the light, and went back to the dining room. My laptop still glowed with the lease agreement I'd been reviewing. I closed it and opened a new browser window. First, I searched for divorce attorneys in Phoenix. I made a list of the top 5, checking their specializations. I needed someone who handled high-asset divorces and business valuations. Then, I did something that would have seemed paranoid a week ago. I checked our joint accounts. Our savings had $63,000. Our checking had $12,000. Normal amounts. Nothing suspicious. But I transferred half of each into my personal account, the one I'd maintained since before we married. Tyler had suggested closing it years ago. I'd refused, and he'd eventually dropped the subject. Smart girl, past Ashley. I reviewed our assets mentally. The house was jointly owned, purchased 4 years ago, for $420,000. Current market value, probably $570,000, maybe more. Tyler's architectural firm was successful, but he was a junior partner, not the owner. My real estate business was entirely mine. I'd built it from scratch over 8 years. We had 2 cars, my Honda CR-V and his Tesla Model S. The Tesla had been a gift to himself last year, after landing a major commercial project. I'd thought it was excessive but hadn't argued. I should have argued. At midnight, I heard the garage door open, Tyler's footsteps in the kitchen, the refrigerator opening and closing. He appeared in the dining room doorway, loosening his tie. "Hey babe, you're still up." I looked at him, really looked. 6'2", athletic build he maintained with regular gym sessions, dark hair starting to grey at the temples, in a way that actually improved his appearance. Expensive suit, tailored perfectly. Confident smile that had won over clients, and, apparently, his brother's wife. "Finishing some work," I said. My voice sounded normal. Amazing, what you can do when you need to. "Sorry I'm so late. The Henderson project is consuming everything." He moved behind my chair, started massaging my shoulders. His hands were warm, familiar. I'd once loved those hands. "No problem," I said. "How's it going?" "Complicated, so many moving parts." He kissed the top of my head. "I'm exhausted." "Coming to bed?" "Soon. Just need to finish this." He squeezed my shoulders once more and left. I heard him climb the stairs, heard the shower start running. 15 minutes later, the house was quiet again. I sat alone in the dining room until 2 a.m, making plans. The next morning, I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, and drove to the office of Patricia Donovan, the attorney at the top of my list. Her assistant tried to tell me she was booked, but I said I'd wait. I sat in that reception area for 90 minutes until she had a cancellation. Patricia was 50-something, sharp-eyed, with grey hair cut in a precise bob. She wore a navy suit and no wedding ring. "Tell me everything," she said, closing her office door. I told her. I showed her the photographs. She examined them on my phone, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. "This LLC," she said finally. "Did you know about it?" "No. Arizona is a community property state. Any income earned during the marriage belongs to both spouses equally. If he's been funneling marital assets into a separate business, without your knowledge, that's a problem. For him. Can we access it? We'll subpoena his records. But first, let's talk about what you want." She set down her pen and looked at me directly. "Some clients want to reconcile. Some want a quick, clean exit. Some want to ensure their spouse suffers consequences. Which are you?" I didn't hesitate. "The third one." Patricia smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "Then we have work to do." Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. Or maybe I became someone I'd always been, but had never needed to be. I went to work every day, smiled at clients, closed deals. I came home and cooked dinner. I asked Tyler about his projects. I laughed at his jokes. We even made love twice, though I felt like I was watching someone else go through the motions. At night, while he slept, I gathered evidence. I found the credit card statements he'd hidden in his office, the ones for the card I didn't know existed. Charges at restaurants I recognized from Catherine's social media posts. Flowers delivered to the Scottsdale apartment, a weekend in San Diego in March, when he'd told me he was visiting a college friend. I photographed everything. I hired a private investigator named Dennis Clark, recommended by Patricia. Dennis was 65, former police detective, and utterly professional. Within a week, he'd confirmed what I already knew. Tyler visited the Scottsdale apartment 3 times a week, usually in the evenings. Catherine was there. They had a routine: arrive separately, leave separately, very careful. Dennis provided detailed logs, photographs, video footage. Nothing explicit, but damning enough. "Want me to keep going?" he asked during our second meeting, in a coffee shop far from my usual haunts. "No, this is plenty." "For what it's worth," he said, "I've been doing this 23 years. Seen a lot of angry spouses. You're different." "How?" "Most people want revenge in the moment. They're messy, impulsive. You're playing a longer game." He wasn't wrong. I also started documenting our finances with obsessive detail. Every account, every asset, every debt. I created spreadsheets tracking cash flow, spending patterns, everything. Patricia had been right about the LLC. Tyler had been depositing money there for months, money that should have gone into our joint accounts. The deposits correlated with major project completions at his firm. He was skimming his bonuses. "This is excellent," Patricia said when I showed her my documentation. "We can make a strong case for dissipation of marital assets, and with the affair evidence, we can push for a larger share of everything." "I want the house," I said. "You'll get it. He can have his Tesla and his secret apartment." "About that apartment, can we make him keep paying for it?" Patricia's eyebrows rose. "Explain." "The lease runs for another 10 months. He signed it. If we time the divorce filing right, he'll be stuck with it. An expensive reminder." "I like how you think." But I wasn't done yet. I had one more piece to put in place. I called Jake Brennan. We'd never been particularly close. He was Tyler's brother, after all, but we'd always been cordial. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Ashley, is everything okay?" "No," I said. "Can we meet? Just us?" We met at a park near his office during his lunch break. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, suit wrinkled. He was 32 but looked older. "Melissa told you," he said immediately. "She did. How long have you known?" 2 months. I found texts on Catherine's phone. She'd been careless, left it unlocked. He stared at the ground. I confronted her. She denied everything at first, then admitted it but said it was over. Said she'd end it. "Did she?" "No, I followed her last week. Watched her go into that apartment." His voice cracked. "She's still lying to me." I sat beside him on the bench. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Divorce feels so final. We have a house together, shared finances. Her parents love me. My parents love her. It's complicated." "It's not that complicated," I said. "She's cheating on you with your brother." He flinched. "I know. But Tyler's always been the golden child, you know. Better at everything. Mom always favored him. Dad, too. I kept thinking maybe if I was more successful, more interesting, Catherine would—" He stopped. "Sorry, this isn't your problem." "Actually, it is. Tyler's my husband, and I'm filing for divorce." Jake looked at me sharply. "When?" "Soon. 2 weeks, maybe 3. I want you to know something. If you file first, or file at the same time I do, it will be harder for them to hide anything. They'll be fighting on 2 fronts. Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You want to coordinate. I want them to face consequences, real ones, don't you?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Yes. God help me. Yes, I do. Then talk to a lawyer. Get your documentation together. And when I tell you I'm filing, you do it too. Same day if possible. They'll know we planned it. Good. Let them know. We shook hands. His grip was firmer than I expected. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange haze. I moved through my days on autopilot, but underneath, I was always calculating, always planning. Patricia's office drafted the divorce petition, thick and detailed. We documented everything. The affair, the hidden apartment, the secret LLC, the dissipation of assets. I also did something I'd been avoiding. I looked at Catherine's social media. Her Instagram was public, filled with carefully curated photos. Her and Jake at restaurants, smiling. Their house, a beautiful mid-century modern in Tempe. Vacation photos from Hawaii, from New York, from Seattle. And mixed in, subtle hints I'd missed before. Photos at restaurants I now recognized from Tyler's credit card statements. A sunset from a balcony that matched the Scottsdale apartment building. A selfie where her necklace matched one from Tyler's jewelry receipts. She'd been documenting her affair in plain sight, confident no one would piece it together. Arrogance. I understood it now. They'd both been arrogant. Tyler thought I was too trusting, too devoted to notice. Catherine thought she was too clever to get caught. They'd underestimated everyone around them. Fatal mistake. On a Thursday afternoon, I came home early from work. Tyler's Tesla was in the driveway, unusual for the middle of the day. I parked on the street and entered quietly through the front door. Voices upstairs. Tyler's and a woman's. Not quite arguing, but tense. I stood in the foyer, listening. We need to be more careful, Catherine was saying. Jake's been acting strange lately. I think he suspects something. He always thinks something, Tyler replied. He's paranoid. Well, can you blame him? His brother and his wife. Hey, you started this. That night at the firm party, you were the one who... Don't, she cut him off. Don't rewrite history. We both wanted this. Silence. Then sounds I recognized but wished I didn't. I could have stormed upstairs, could have confronted them, could have screamed and thrown things and made a scene. Instead, I took out my phone and texted Dennis. They're at my house, now. His response was immediate. On it. I left as quietly as I'd entered, drove to a nearby coffee shop and waited. 30 minutes later, Dennis sent me a series of photos. Catherine's car in my driveway, license plate visible. Timestamp showing she'd been there for over an hour. Her entering my house. Her leaving, clothes slightly disheveled, hair different than when she'd arrived. Got video too, Dennis texted, clear as day. Perfect, I sent back. That night, Tyler came home at his usual time, acting perfectly normal. He asked about my day. We ate dinner together, pasta I'd made, his favorite. He complimented the sauce. I watched him eat and thought about how easy it is to lie when you practice enough. The next morning, I went to Patricia's office with the new evidence. They're getting sloppy, she said, reviewing the photos. Or arrogant. Both, probably. This changes things, Patricia said, her tone measured but laced with quiet satisfaction. She adjusted her glasses and tapped one perfectly manicured nail against the glossy surface of the photos spread across her desk. Using the marital home for the affair adds another layer. In some cases, judges consider that particularly egregious. She looked up, meeting my eyes. Are you ready? I didn't hesitate. I'd been ready for weeks, months, if I was being honest. Yes. I'll have the papers drawn up today, she said. We can file Monday morning. Make it Monday afternoon, I replied. I need to time something. Patricia studied me for a moment, curiosity flickering behind her professional calm, but she didn't ask. She simply nodded. Monday afternoon, then. That weekend moved like a dream wrapped in static. I kept waiting for guilt or hesitation to surface, but instead, there was only a strange calm, a kind of suspended clarity. Tyler seemed lighter than usual, chatty even. On Saturday morning, as I poured coffee, he came into the kitchen barefoot and smiling. "Let's go hiking," he said suddenly, leaning against the counter. "We haven't done that in forever." Hiking had been our thing once, back when weekends meant adventure, not avoidance. I stared at him for a beat before answering. "Sure," I said. We drove north with the windows down, the early heat of Phoenix pressing through the open air. The desert unfolded around us in muted golds and reds, saguaro silhouettes reaching up toward the bleached sky. Tyler hummed along to the radio, tapping the steering wheel in rhythm, as if nothing in the world were broken. At Camelback Mountain, the trail was steep and crowded with weekend hikers. Tyler led the way, glancing back every so often with an encouraging grin. I followed, my breathing steady, my mind miles away. By the time we reached the summit, the city stretched endlessly below us, glass, dust, light. He slipped an arm around my shoulders. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly. "Yes," I answered, because it was. The view was breathtaking, even if the moment wasn't. "We should do this more often," he said. "I've been so caught up in work lately. I've been neglecting us." Us. The word caught in my throat. He said it so casually, like it still meant something, as if we hadn't been living in parallel lives for the better part of a year, as if he hadn't shared our bed, our home, with someone else. "Tyler," I said carefully, "do you ever think about the future? Where you'll be in 5 years? 10? He considered it, gazing out at the skyline. "I'd like to make partner at the firm. Maybe start my own practice eventually. Have kids, probably. You still want that, right?" I had once. I'd wanted a house full of noise and life, of mornings that smelled like coffee and baby powder, of someone small and loved and safe. But the idea of raising a child in the middle of all these lies made my stomach twist. "Sure," I said. He smiled, satisfied with the answer. "Good. I think we'd be great parents." He kissed my temple, warm and casual. "I love you, Ash." That nickname, Ash, had once made me feel cherished. Now it sounded empty, a word scraped hollow from overuse. "Love you too," I said, and hated how easily it came out, how practiced it sounded. Monday morning came early. I woke before my alarm, sunlight barely brushing the curtains. Tyler was still asleep beside me, one arm thrown carelessly across the pillow. In sleep, he looked peaceful, almost boyish, the kind of face that once made me believe in forever. I watched him for a long moment, wondering when exactly that image had stopped being true. I got dressed quietly, moving through the familiar motions of morning. Coffee brewed, toast popped, the steady rhythm of a life that had already ended. On the kitchen counter, I left a note written in my neat realtor's handwriting. "Early showing. See you tonight." But instead of heading to a showing, I drove across town to Patricia's office. The city was already humming with traffic, sunlight flashing off glass towers. My hands were steady on the steering wheel. When I walked in, Jake Brennan was already there, waiting in the reception area. He looked exhausted but resolute, his expression the mirror of my own. "Ready?" I asked. "As I'll ever be," he said. We entered Patricia's office together. Her desk was immaculate, 2 identical stacks of documents laid out, each clipped and tabbed. "Jake's attorney will file at the county courthouse at 2 o'clock, Patricia said, glancing between us. "We'll file at 2:30. By 3, they'll both be served. The timing isn't accidental. They'll each get the papers right after the other one does. Maximum impact." Jake leaned forward slightly. "What happens then?" "Legally," Patricia said, "they have 20 days to respond. Realistically, they'll panic. They'll call their attorneys, who will tell them the evidence is overwhelming. The affair, the financial improprieties, the falsified valuations, it's all documented. There's not much room to spin this." Jake's shoulders dropped. "Catherine's family is wealthy," he said quietly. "She'll hire an expensive lawyer." "Let her," Patricia replied smoothly. Money doesn't erase facts. It only delays consequences. She pushed the papers toward us, her tone softening just slightly. Last chance to back out. Neither of us moved. All right then, she said. I'll see you both at 2. The rest of the day passed in a haze of normalcy. I went to the office, showed an industrial space to a potential tenant, discussed square footage and lease options. I smiled when appropriate, shook hands, pretended everything was ordinary. My phone stayed silent in my pocket, a weight I could feel even when I wasn't touching it. At 2:45, it buzzed. A single text from Patricia. Done. Papers filed. I stared at the message for a long moment, the world suddenly very quiet. Then I exhaled slowly, slipped my phone back into my bag, and walked out of the office, into the blinding Arizona sun. At 3:15, Tyler called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. 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 At 3:30, he texted, Ashley, call me now. I waited until 4, then called back from my car, parked in an empty lot. What the hell is going on? He demanded, no greeting. I assume you received the divorce papers. Silence. Then, you can't be serious. We can talk about this. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. There's nothing to fix. The marriage is over. Over? Ashley, I don't understand. Where is this coming from? The audacity. Even now he was going to pretend. I know about Catherine. Another pause. Longer this time. I don't know what you think you know, but I know everything, Tyler. The apartment, the LLC, the money you've been hiding, the hotel receipts, the jewelry, all of it. You've been spying on me. His voice shifted, defensive now. I've been paying attention, there's a difference. This is insane, you're being crazy. Don't. The word came out harder than I'd intended. Don't call me crazy for noticing what you did. You made choices. Now you get consequences. Fine. You want a divorce? Fine. But you're not taking everything. Actually, I am. The house, half the retirement accounts, half your business assets, including that LLC you thought you'd hidden. And you get to keep paying for that Scottsdale apartment for the next 10 months. I hope you and Catherine enjoy it. You vindictive. He stopped himself. Finish that sentence, I said. I dare you. He didn't. Instead, Jake knows? Jake filed for divorce from Catherine about 30 minutes before I filed on you. So yes, he knows. You coordinated this. We did. Surprise. I could almost hear him thinking, calculating. We can settle this quietly. No need for a big court battle. Split things 50-50, call it done. No. Ashley, be reasonable. I'm being perfectly reasonable. You'll get your share of what's equitable. But you hid assets, you committed adultery in our home, and you systematically lied for over a year. That doesn't earn you 50-50. My lawyer will tell you the same thing Patricia is telling me. You're in a bad position. Take the settlement we're offering or go to court. Your choice. This isn't you. You're not this cold. You don't know who I am, I said. You never did. That was the problem. I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from fear or sadness, but from adrenaline. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. The phone rang again immediately. I blocked his number. The next few days were chaos. Tyler tried to come to the house. I'd changed the locks. He sent emails. I forwarded them to Patricia. He showed up at my office. I had building security remove him. Catherine, apparently, was having similar experiences with Jake. She'd posted a long, emotional Instagram story about going through a difficult time and fake friends. The comments were brutal. People had figured it out. Tyler's family called me, his mother crying, begging me to reconsider. His father, angry, accusing me of blindsiding them. I kept my responses brief. Talk to Tyler. He knows what he did. My own parents were supportive, though shocked. My mother had always liked Tyler. I never saw it coming, she kept saying. He seemed so devoted. That's the point, I told her. They always do. A week after filing, I met with Patricia to review next steps. Tyler had hired a lawyer, Douglas Kern, expensive and aggressive. He'd already sent threatening letters about fighting the settlement. "Let him fight," Patricia said. "We have documentation he can't refute. The apartment lease, the LLC transfers, the photographs. He can try to claim the affair didn't happen, but we have him on camera entering your marital home with Catherine in the middle of the day." "What about the business assets?" "That's trickier. He's going to argue the LLC was a separate entity for legitimate business purposes. We'll need to prove he was hiding marital income. I have spreadsheets showing every deposit correlates with a project completion bonus from his firm. He should have been reporting that income." "Beautiful. Send those to me." 2 weeks after filing, Jake called me. "Can we meet? I need to talk to someone who understands." We met at the same park as before. He looked worse than last time, like he hadn't slept in days. "Catherine lawyered up hard," he said. "She's claiming I was controlling and demanding, that the marriage was already over. She's making me look like the villain. Public opinion? Split. Her friends believe her. My friends believe me. Everyone else just wants drama." "What does your attorney say?" "That we should settle. That fighting will be expensive and messy." He rubbed his face. "I'm tired, Ashley. I'm so tired of all this." "I know, but you can't give up now. You deserve better than what she gave you." "Do I, though? Maybe I was a bad husband. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention, didn't make her feel valued." "Stop. You're not responsible for her choices. She chose to cheat. She chose to lie. Those were her decisions, not yours." He looked at me with something like hope. "How are you so strong about this? Tyler and Catherine were together for at least a year. That's a year of lies. Doesn't it hurt?" "Of course it hurts. But being hurt and being weak aren't the same thing. I choose not to be weak." "I wish I had your certainty." "You do. You just need to remember it." We sat in silence for a while, watching people walk their dogs, kids play on the playground, normal life continuing around us, while ours fell apart. "My attorney wants to subpoena Catherine's phone records," Jake said finally. "She says we can prove the timeline of the affair, maybe find other evidence." "Do it. Don't hold back. Tyler's your husband, or was. Doesn't it feel like betraying him?" "He betrayed me first, and more importantly, he betrayed us, the idea of us, the marriage we were supposed to have. I don't owe him protection." Jake nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll tell my attorney to proceed." A month after filing, Patricia called me with news. "Tyler's attorney wants to negotiate. They're willing to give you the house and 60% of the marital assets if you'll waive any claim to the LLC." "What's in the LLC?" We finally got the full financial disclosure. About $240,000, accumulated over the 18 months he's been depositing there. I did the math. "That's my money too." "Exactly, and now he knows we know, so he's trying to protect it." "No deal." "Ashley, 60% of everything else is generous. If we push for the LLC, we might end up in court. That's expensive, time-consuming, and uncertain." "I don't care. That money belongs to both of us. He hid it deliberately. If we let him keep it, we're rewarding his dishonesty." Patricia smiled. "You're a pain in the neck, you know that?" "I've been told." "All right. I'll tell Kern we're not interested. We want the house, 60% of marital assets, and full disclosure and division of the LLC. And he keeps the Scottsdale apartment lease. That's punitive at this point." "Good." The negotiation went on for weeks. Tyler's attorney tried everything, claiming the LLC was his separate property, arguing I was being unreasonable, threatening to drag the case out for years. Patricia countered every move with documentation, precedent, case law. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding my life. I'd started seeing a therapist, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd missed the signs for so long. Dr. Reeves was in her 40s, calm and insightful. "You mentioned you'd ignored small inconsistencies," she said during one session. "Tell me about those." Tyler started working late more often about 2 years ago. Not every night, but enough that it became the new normal. He was less interested in spending time together, more secretive with his phone. He'd get defensive if I asked questions. "Did you confront him?" "A few times. He always had reasonable explanations. Work was busy, he was stressed, he needed space. I believed him because I wanted to, because suspecting your spouse of cheating feels paranoid." "But your instincts were trying to tell you something." "I guess, but I talked myself out of listening." "That's common. We're conditioned to trust, especially in marriage. Breaking that trust feels like a personal failure." "But it wasn't my failure. It was his." "Exactly. You're starting to understand that." I also started dating again. Casually, nothing serious. A colleague introduced me to Michael, a real estate developer. We went to dinner, talked about architecture and city planning and movies. It was pleasant, uncomplicated. "You seem different than most people I meet," he said over dessert. "How so?" "More self-assured, like you know exactly who you are." "I'm learning," I said. Meanwhile, Tyler was apparently spiraling. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd been drinking more, missing work, picking fights with colleagues. Catherine had moved out of the house she shared with Jake and into the Scottsdale apartment, the one Tyler was still paying for. Rumor had it they were already fighting. "Turns out affairs are more fun when they're secret," Patricia commented when I told her this. Who would have thought? 3 months after filing, we finally reached a settlement. I got the house, 65% of the marital assets, and full accounting of the LLC, which we'd split 50-50, but only after Tyler paid penalties for hiding it. He kept his Tesla, his retirement account, and yes, the Scottsdale apartment lease. "He's going to be financially stressed for a while," Patricia said, reviewing the final agreement. "That lease is costing him $4,000 a month, and he's responsible for splitting the LLC funds, which means liquidating some of it, plus his legal fees, which I'm sure are substantial. And Catherine's living in the apartment he's paying for." Irony at its finest. Jake's divorce settled around the same time. Catherine got half their assets, less than she'd wanted, more than she deserved. She kept posting cryptic Instagram quotes about rising above and choosing happiness. The comments remained brutal. The final hearing was brief and procedural. Tyler and I sat on opposite sides of the courtroom with our attorneys. The judge reviewed the settlement agreement, confirmed we both understood and agreed to the terms, and granted the divorce. Just like that, 9 years of marriage ended. Tyler tried to talk to me as we left the courthouse. "Ashley, wait." I paused. Patricia looked ready to intervene, but I waved her off. "What?" He looked terrible. Weight loss, dark circles, suit that didn't fit quite right anymore. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I was selfish and stupid and I hurt you. You didn't deserve that." "No, I didn't. Is there any chance we could talk? Maybe have coffee sometime? I'd like to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You made choices. You lived with them for over a year. Now you live with the consequences. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but maybe eventually nothing. We're done, Tyler. Completely. I don't want your apology, or your explanation, or your coffee invitation. I want you to leave me alone." His jaw tightened. "You've really changed." "No, I just stopped pretending." I walked away. Patricia followed, heels clicking on the courthouse marble. "That felt good, didn't it?" she asked. "Yeah," I admitted. "It really did." 6 months after the divorce finalized, I sold the house. Too many memories, too much history. I bought a modern condo in downtown Phoenix, smaller, but entirely mine. Clean slate. Jake and I stayed in touch. Not constantly, but enough. We'd text occasionally, checking in. He'd started therapy too, was rebuilding his career and his confidence. Catherine's engaged, he told me over lunch one day. Not to Tyler. Some tech executive she met 2 months ago. Fast. That's Catherine, always moving on to the next thing. How do you feel about it? Relieved, honestly. Means she's definitely moved on. I can too. What about Tyler? Jake's expression darkened. Last I heard, he's struggling, lost a major client, got passed over for partner at his firm. He and Catherine imploded spectacularly. Apparently, he couldn't afford to keep supporting her lifestyle while paying off the divorce settlement. Choices and consequences. You really don't feel bad for him? I considered this carefully. I feel bad for the person I thought he was, but that person never existed. The real Tyler made his choices knowing they would hurt people. I'm not responsible for his happiness. When did you get so wise? When I stopped being so trusting. A year after the divorce, I ran into Catherine at a charity event. We both froze when we saw each other across the room. She looked good. Designer dress, expensive jewelry, that same confident smile. But something in her eyes was different, harder. She approached me surprisingly. Ashley. Catherine. I suppose I should apologize. Should you? Probably not. We weren't friends. I don't owe you anything. True, but you owed Jake something, and Tyler owed me something. Funny how those debts got paid anyway. She flinched slightly. You destroyed his life. I ended my marriage to him. He destroyed his own life with his choices. He loved you, you know. He told me that. Said he didn't know how to stop what was happening between us. If you believe that, you're fooling yourself. He didn't love me. He loved the idea of having everything, the stable wife, the exciting affair, the secret money. He just didn't want to pay for it. You've become very cold. I've become very clear. There's a difference. She studied me for a moment. I used to think you were weak, passive. That's why Tyler said he needed more. And now I think you're terrifying. She walked away without another word. I watched her go and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction. Nothing. Maybe that meant I'd healed. Or maybe it meant I'd simply moved past the point where she mattered. 2 years after the divorce, I was thriving. My real estate business had expanded. I'd hired 2 associates and was handling bigger commercial deals. I'd bought a vacation property in Flagstaff. I'd traveled to Spain and Morocco and Iceland, all places Tyler had never wanted to visit. I'd also met someone. David was a civil engineer, divorced like me, with 2 kids he had joint custody of. We took things slow, both of us wary of rushing into anything. He was kind, honest, and refreshingly straightforward. My ex-wife cheated on me, he told me on our 3rd date, with my former business partner, lost my marriage and my company in the same year. How did you handle it? Badly, at first. Drank too much, isolated myself. My kids suffered for it. Then I realized I was letting her win twice. Once by cheating, again by making me miserable. So I got therapy, rebuilt my career, focused on being a good father. Do you still think about her? Sometimes, but not with anger anymore. More like bewilderment. I wasted 15 years on someone who wasn't who I thought she was. I understood that completely. David and I didn't rush anything. We dated for 8 months before he met my parents, a year before I met his kids, 2 girls, 9 and 12, polite and curious. We talked about maybe moving in together eventually, but neither of us was in a hurry. I like that we're taking this slow, he said one evening, sitting on my condo balcony, watching the sunset. My first marriage, we rushed everything. Engaged after 6 months, married a year later. Didn't really know each other. Tyler and I dated for 2 years before getting engaged. Still didn't work out. Maybe time isn't the issue. Maybe it's honesty. Maybe. He took my hand. I want you to know. I'm not hiding anything from you. My finances, my past. my struggles with my ex. It's all on the table. I don't want any secrets between us. I appreciate that. Same here. No secrets. And I meant it. I'd learned the cost of secrets, of lies left to fester. I'd rather have uncomfortable honesty than comfortable deception. Meanwhile, I'd heard through the network of mutual acquaintances that Tyler had moved to Denver. Fresh start, new architectural firm, lower position than he'd held before. The LLC had been liquidated to pay his debts. The Scottsdale apartment lease had finally ended, though not before causing significant financial strain. Catherine's engagement had fallen apart after 6 months. She'd moved to Los Angeles, was working in marketing for a tech startup. Her Instagram had become less polished, more authentic. Whether that was growth or just better branding, I couldn't tell. Jake had met someone too, a teacher named Rachel, warm and funny, and completely uninterested in drama. They'd been dating for several months, and he seemed genuinely happy. I never thanked you properly, he told me when we met for coffee one afternoon, for helping me find the courage to leave. You found it yourself. I just reminded you it was there. Still, you saved me from wasting more years on someone who didn't value me. We saved each other then, he smiled. Fair enough. 3 years after the divorce, I went to a conference in Seattle, a real estate development symposium. During a networking mixer, I literally bumped into someone, spilling champagne on both of us. I'm so sorry, I said, grabbing napkins. No, my fault entirely. I wasn't watching where I was. The man looked up and froze. Ashley? It took me a second to place him. Then, Ben? Ben Harper. I dated him briefly in college before I'd met Tyler. We'd broken up amicably when he'd moved to Seattle for graduate school. I hadn't thought about him in years. Wow, he said, still staring. What are you doing here? Conference. You? I live here now. I'm a keynote speaker tomorrow, actually. Urban planning and sustainable development. We ended up talking for 2 hours, catching up on 15 years. He'd married, divorced, remarried, divorced again. No kids. Built a successful consulting firm. Still loved jazz music and hiking. You seem different, he said. More centered, I guess. Divorce will do that. Forces you to figure out who you are. I heard you got married. Tyler something. Morgan, we divorced 3 years ago. I'm sorry. I'm not. It was the right call. He studied me thoughtfully. You know what's funny? When we dated in college, you were always so eager to please. Always adjusting yourself to fit what I wanted, what our friends wanted. I don't see that anymore. I learned better. Good for you. We exchanged numbers, promised to stay in touch. I didn't expect anything to come of it. Seattle was far from Phoenix, and neither of us was looking for a long-distance relationship. But it was nice, reconnecting with someone who'd known me before Tyler, before everything. Back in Phoenix, David and I continued building our relationship carefully. We had minor disagreements. What couple doesn't? But we talked through them. No silent treatments, no passive aggression, no lies. I want to introduce you to my parents, he said one Saturday morning, making breakfast in my kitchen. He'd started staying over most weekends when his kids were with their mother. Are you sure? That feels significant. It is significant. I'm serious about you, Ashley. I'm not proposing. We're not there yet. But I want my family to know you're important to me. Then yes, I'd like that. Meeting David's parents was surprisingly comfortable. His mother was warm, his father quiet but kind. They asked polite questions about my work, my family, my interests. No one mentioned Tyler or my divorce unless I brought it up. David talks about you constantly, his mother told me while we were clearing dishes. He's happier than I've seen him in years. He makes me happy too. That's all a mother wants to hear. 4 years after the divorce, I attended my college reunion. I hadn't planned to go. Reconnecting with people from my past felt unnecessary. But my friend from college, Tara, convinced me. Come on, it'll be fun. See how everyone turned out. Lots of people are bringing partners. I brought David. He was curious about my college years. The person I'd been before adult life had shaped me. The reunion was exactly as expected, a mix of successful people eager to prove it and struggling people trying to hide it. I introduced David around, showed him my old dorm, the library where I'd spent countless nights studying, and then, across the room at the cocktail reception, I saw Tyler. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, blonde, young, pretty, in an unremarkable way, the kind of beauty that exists only in good lighting. Her laughter was sharp and practiced, her hand curled possessively around his arm, as though she could anchor herself there. Tyler looked different, older, thinner around the eyes, a little hollowed out. The effortless confidence I remembered, the one that used to fill every room before he even spoke, had dulled into something strained. It wasn't charisma anymore, it was performance. David felt the shift in me before I said anything. His thumb brushed against my palm, grounding. "You okay?" My jaw tightened. "That's Tyler," I said quietly. "My ex-husband." He glanced across the room, following my line of sight. "Want to leave?" I hesitated. Leaving would have been easy, an escape, a quiet retreat. But there was a flicker of stubbornness, old pride, something deeper than anger. I straightened my shoulders. "No," I said finally. "I have as much right to be here as he does." Tyler saw me then. I watched the recognition ripple across his face like a stone thrown into water. Surprise, discomfort, a flash of something that might have been longing, though it looked more like regret wearing a familiar disguise. The blonde, Vanessa, I would later learn, noticed his distraction, followed his gaze, and her expression cooled immediately. They started walking toward us. Of course they did. "Ashley," Tyler said when they reached us, the way he said my name, both cautious and practiced. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Surprise," I said lightly. He gave a small, uncertain smile and gestured toward the woman at his side. "This is Vanessa. Vanessa, this is Ashley. His voice caught, a small pause where a whole history lived. "We used to be married." Vanessa's smile was tight, polite in the way of someone who wanted control of the narrative. "Tyler's mentioned you." I tilted my head slightly. "Nothing good, I'm sure." "Actually," she said with bright insistence, "he speaks highly of you, says you were the one who got away." The laugh that threatened to escape didn't sound kind, so I let it stay where it was. "That's an interesting revision of history." David stepped forward, extending his hand. His voice was calm, warm. "David Chen," he said. "I'm with Ashley." Tyler shook it, his eyes flicking over David quickly, assessing, calculating. "Tyler Morgan, nice to meet you." The handshake ended, leaving behind a vacuum of awkward silence that hung heavy between the four of us. The murmur of conversation and the clinking of glasses around us seemed suddenly louder, the whole room pretending not to notice the quiet tension threading through this small, polite collision. Vanessa broke first. "Tyler and I met at his firm," she said brightly. "I'm in interior design, so we collaborate often." "How nice," I said, the words smooth but hollow. "We're actually engaged," she added, almost too quickly, as though the information needed to be on record. She held up her left hand, the modest diamond catching the light. "Getting married next spring." "Congratulations." Tyler's eyes never left mine. He was searching for something, shock, envy, pain, but I kept my face composed, giving him nothing. "You look well," he said at last, softer now. "Happy." "I am." He nodded slowly, a ghost of his old charm flickering at the edges. "Good, that's good. I always wanted that for you." I couldn't help it. The laugh escaped this time, low and sharp. "Tyler, you don't get to rewrite our ending. You cheated, you lied, you hid money. I divorced you. Those are the facts." Vanessa's smile faltered. Her eyes widened slightly, and her grip on his arm tightened. David's hand slipped into mine, steady and sure. Tyler's jaw flexed, the polite mask cracking. "I made mistakes," he said. "I've acknowledged that. I've grown." "I'm sure you have," I said, voice even. "But that doesn't change what happened." He exhaled sharply, frustration flaring. "Can't you just let it go? It's been 4 years." "I have let it go," I said. "You're the one who approached me, remember? I was perfectly content ignoring you." Vanessa tugged gently on his arm. "Maybe we should—" "No, it's fine," Tyler snapped, though his tone betrayed him. "Ashley likes to punish people. Always has to have the moral high ground." David took a small step forward, his expression calm but unyielding. "I think that's enough." Tyler's head turned, his eyes narrowing. "And who are you? Her protector?" "I'm someone who respects her enough not to gaslight her about her own experiences." For a second, everything stilled. Tyler's face flushed a deep red, his mouth tightening as if another cruel word was forming. For a heartbeat, I saw the man I used to know. The arrogance, the temper, the instinct to strike where it would hurt most. But then Vanessa's hand closed around his wrist, firmer this time. "Tyler," she said under her breath, "let's go." He hesitated, looking at me one last time, something bitter glinting behind his eyes. Then he turned and allowed her to lead him away, his shoulders rigid, his posture brittle with swallowed anger. When they disappeared into the crowd, I realized I'd been holding my breath. David's fingers brushed over mine, steady, reassuring. Around us, the music swelled again, and the room resumed its rhythm, as if nothing had happened at all, as if ghosts didn't still know how to find me. David turned to me. "You all right?" "Surprisingly, yes." "Want to talk about it?" "Not really. I just want to enjoy the rest of the evening." And I did. We danced. We caught up with old friends. We laughed. Tyler stayed on the other side of the room, shooting occasional glances our way. I didn't look back. Later, in the hotel room, David asked, "Does it bother you that he's engaged?" "No, I feel sorry for her, honestly. Either he's changed, in which case she's getting a better version than I did, which seems unfair, or he hasn't changed, and she's in for the same experience I had." "You don't still love him, do you?" "Not even a little." I thought about it honestly. I love who I thought he was, but that person never existed. The real Tyler? No, I don't love him. I don't even think about him unless forced to. "Good," David kissed my forehead, "because you deserve someone who appreciates what they have." 5 years after the divorce, I was named one of Phoenix's top commercial real estate agents. The local business magazine did a profile, complete with photos of my office, my team, my success stories. The reporter asked about my background. "You built this company from nothing. What drove you?" "Necessity at first. I needed to support myself to prove I could, but it became more than that. It became about building something that was entirely mine." "You're divorced, correct?" "Yes." "Did that experience inform your business approach?" "Absolutely. I learned that the only person you can truly rely on is yourself, that contracts matter, that trust has to be earned, not assumed. Some might call that cynical. I call it realistic." The article was published with a headline, "Ashley Morgan, Building Success on Her Own Terms." My mother framed it. My father sent it to all his friends. David told me he was proud of me. Tyler texted me. I'd never unblocked his number, so the message came through. "Saw your article. Congratulations. You always were the smart one." I deleted it without responding. 6 years after the divorce, David proposed. Not elaborately, just the two of us, hiking in Sedona at sunset. He'd packed champagne in his backpack and a ring in his pocket. "I know we said we'd take things slow," he said, kneeling on the red rocks. "And we have. 6 years is slow, but I love you, Ashley. I love your strength, your honesty, your kindness. I love how you've built a life you're proud of. I want to be part of that life, officially. Will you marry me?" I looked at this man who'd been patient, who'd been honest, who'd shown me what a partnership could actually look like. "Yes." We got married at the courthouse. Both of us agreed we didn't need a big wedding. Just us, our families, a few close friends. Simple vows, meaningful promises. Jake came, bringing Rachel. They'd gotten married the year before, were expecting their first child. "You look happy," he told me at the small reception after. "I am. Finally. We both made it through." We did. 7 years after my divorce from Tyler, I was having dinner with David when my phone rang. Unknown number. I usually didn't answer those, but something made me pick up. "Ashley Morgan?" "Speaking." "This is Vanessa Morgan. We met at your college reunion a few years ago. I was with Tyler." My stomach tightened. "I remember." "I'm sorry to call out of nowhere, but I didn't know who else to talk to. I found your number through your business website." "What's going on?" A long pause. Then, "Tyler and I got married 2 years ago. I just found out he's been cheating on me, with a woman from his office. He's also been hiding money, has a separate account I knew nothing about." The pattern repeats. "Of course it does." "I'm sorry that's happening to you," I said carefully. "You tried to warn me. At the reunion, you said he cheated and lied. I thought you were just bitter. I thought I was different, special, that he'd changed for me." "He didn't change." "No." Her voice cracked. "He didn't. And now I'm pregnant, and I don't know what to do." I felt a wave of sympathy for this woman I barely knew. "Do you have a lawyer?" "Not yet. I don't even know where to start." I gave her Patricia Donovan's contact information. "Tell her I referred you. She's expensive but worth it. And Vanessa, document everything. Every lie, every account, every receipt. Don't confront him until you have legal advice. Just gather evidence." "That's so calculated." "Yes, it is. Because if you go in emotional and unprepared, he'll manipulate the situation. I learned that the hard way." "Did you ever regret divorcing him?" "Not even once." After we hung up, David looked at me questioningly. "Tyler's second wife," I explained. "He's cheating on her too. She just found out." "Same pattern." "Exactly. You gave her your lawyer's information." "Someone helped me when I needed it, paying it forward." David came around the table and kissed me. "This is why I love you. You could have been vindictive. Instead, you helped." "I'm not helping her to hurt Tyler. I'm helping her because she deserves better, just like I did. Vanessa eventually did divorce Tyler. Patricia represented her, told me later that the case was remarkably similar to mine. Hidden assets, affair evidence, financial manipulation. Tyler lost half of everything again. "He never learns," Patricia said when we met for lunch. "Some people just don't." "That's not my problem anymore." "No, it's really not." 8 years after my divorce, I took David to visit the house I used to share with Tyler, now owned by a young couple with 2 kids. I'd driven past it on a whim, curious. "That was your house?" David asked. "For 4 years. Feels like a lifetime ago." "Do you miss it?" "The house?" "No. The life I thought I had there. Sometimes. But only in the way you miss any illusion, once you realize it was never real." We drove away, back to our own house, the one we'd bought together last year. Our house, our life, our future. That night, lying in bed, David said, "You never talk about wanting revenge anymore." I don't think about revenge. That was for past Ashley, when she was angry and hurt. Present Ashley just wants to live well. Mission accomplished. I smiled in the darkness. Yeah, I think it is. 9 years after the divorce, exactly as long as I'd been married to Tyler, I received a letter, paper, not email, handwritten. "Dear Ashley, I know I have no right to contact you. You made it clear years ago that you wanted nothing to do with me. But I'm writing this anyway, not because I expect forgiveness, but because I need to say it. You were right about everything. I was selfish. I was cruel. I took your trust and destroyed it for no better reason than because I could. I convinced myself I deserved more than what we had, that you wouldn't understand my needs, that the affair was somehow justified. I was wrong. I've now lost 2 wives, 2 careers, most of my money, and my self-respect. I'm in therapy, finally dealing with the issues I should have faced decades ago. My therapist asked me to write letters to the people I've hurt. You're first on that list. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that destroying our marriage is the biggest regret of my life. Not because of what I lost, the house, the money, the status, but because I lost you, the real you who was kind and patient and loyal. I threw that away for something cheap and temporary. I heard you remarried. I'm glad. You deserve happiness. You deserved it back then too. I'm sorry I couldn't be the person to give it to you. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted you to know that you were right, I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Tyler. I read the letter twice, then showed it to David. How do you feel? He asked. Honestly? Nothing. It's like reading about someone else's life. Are you going to respond? No, there's nothing to say. He's apologizing to make himself feel better, not because it changes anything for me. I filed the letter away in a drawer and didn't think about it again. 10 years after the divorce, I stood in my office, looking out at the Phoenix skyline. I'd just closed the biggest deal of my career, a mixed-use development worth $40 million. My commission alone was substantial. My assistant knocked. Your 4 o'clock is here. Send them in. A young woman entered, nervous, clutching a folder. Ms. Morgan, thank you for seeing me. I'm starting my own real estate company, and I was hoping you'd have advice. Sit down. Tell me about yourself. We talked for an hour. She reminded me of myself a decade ago, ambitious, uncertain, trying to figure out how to build something meaningful. The most important thing, I told her, is to never compromise your integrity. Not for a sale, not for a client, not for anyone. Your reputation is all you have. What if you make mistakes? You will. Everyone does, but the question is whether you learn from them or repeat them. After she left, I sat at my desk and thought about the person I'd been 10 years ago. Hurt, angry, determined to prove something. I'd built a successful career, yes, but more importantly, I'd built a life I was proud of, honest, stable, real. Tyler had taught me what I didn't want. David had shown me what I did. But ultimately, I'd figured out who I was on my own. That evening, David and I hosted a dinner party. Jake and Rachel came, bringing their 2 kids. My parents, David's parents, a few close friends. We ate too much, laughed too loud, stayed up too late. As I cleared dishes, Rachel joined me in the kitchen. You seem really happy, she said. I am. Jake told me what you went through with Tyler, how you helped him leave Catherine. I don't think I ever properly thanked you. You don't need to. Jake helped me as much as I helped him. Still, you could have stayed quiet, let the affair continue, avoided the drama. Instead, you chose the hard path. It was the only path that led anywhere good. Later, after everyone had left, David and I sat on our back patio, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. Do you ever wonder what your life would be like if Tyler hadn't cheated? He asked. Sometimes, but not with regret. If he hadn't cheated, or if I hadn't found out, I'd probably still be married to him. Still be living a lie. Still be that version of myself who ignored her instincts and settled for less than she deserved. No regrets at all. I regret the time wasted, but I don't regret how it ended. That version of my life had to end for this one to begin. David pulled me closer. I'm glad this one began. Me too. We sat in comfortable silence, and I realized something. I hadn't thought about Tyler, really thought about him in months. He'd become a story I told occasionally, a cautionary tale, but not someone who occupied space in my heart or mind. I'd won, not by destroying him, though I'd certainly taken my due. I'd won by building something better, by becoming someone stronger, by refusing to let his betrayal define my future. Revenge, I'd learned, isn't about punishment. It's about becoming so completely yourself that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant. And Tyler Morgan, my husband, my betrayer, my past, was finally completely irrelevant. I was free,